Alrighty, welcome to the 79th edition of Before the Battle. I am Nick Baldwin of BloodyElbow.com, and joining me is Jed Meshew of the award-winning MMAfighting.com. Of course, you can't see Wesley Riddle. That is because he is not here. I don't really know where he is. I can hear myself. But yeah, I don't know where Wes is. I know he said earlier today that he may not be able to do the show, and his prediction came true. He might pop in later. We will play that by ear and see whether that's the case. Jed, it's been a little bit. As I said off the air, don't say that too often. It seems like you're always on the circus. You haven't been for 3 weeks. That's probably a record ever since you started doing the circus with me part-time. Before the Battle has been off since early this month. We had Sergio Pettis and Brandon Moreno also. We have to do those results. My prediction, you don't have those ready.
I don't even have them on me. Which is fine. It's fine because come on, like this doesn't really count as a before the battle. It does a little bit, but we're mostly here because it's been a long time. There's a Bellator card that isn't completely terrible. I'm end up working on that on Friday, so that's going to be fun. And then of course, sad to say, but it is the reality, the biggest fight of the year, maybe of all time, probably that we'll ever be sort of involved in, or at least certainly for the next few years, is happening on Saturday. And so we felt compelled to at least do that thing that everybody else is doing, which is talk about the fucking idiocy that is Mayweather-McGregor.
Yeah, I liked it at first, but I don't anymore. There's been too much drama. I've said it on every show I've done, briefly touching on it. It's like a soap opera. It's just really hot trash, and it's annoying, and I can't wait for it to be over. But the unfortunate part is that although the fight happens in a few days, we're still going to be talking about it probably next August 2018, maybe even August 2019. So that's really terrible. Hopefully we move on sooner than that, but my hopes aren't too high. So I guess we'll talk about the Sergio Pettis Brandon Moreno UFC Fight Night 114 Mexico City results when we do the show again. That will be next week, I guess it is. Do we have a card next week? Yes, we do. Alexander Volkov and Stefan Struve.
How could you forget? Volkov versus Struve. It's so tall. There's so much height in the octagon.
Was it you I was talking to who I said I was actually kind of looking forward to that fight? It might have been Andrew Lawrence. He's actually back, but yeah.
I don't hate that fight at all.
What's that?
I don't hate that fight at all. I mean, it's awesome, but sure, it's fun. I don't even know what's on that card, honestly. Let me give it a look.
The featherweight champion herself, Jermaine Duranamy. How can you complain?
Is Jermaine Duranamy actually on that card?
She is against Marion Renato. She is.
I didn't realize the featherweight champion was back in action so early. That's exciting.
Des Green and Rustam Kabalov is in the middle of the prelims, and nobody will watch.
Where the hell is this shit? Oh, God.
It is in Rotterdam.
I know, but it just took forever to get to it on Tapologies. There's like 8 other things in the way. Yeah, Rustam Kabalov, Frankomar Barros.
The co-main is – remind me what the co-main is.
Leon Edwards, Brian Barberena is that is a rough co-main event.
That's definitely the main card, the first fight on the main card.
Not according to Tapology.
Well, I was looking at the card, believe me, or surprisingly, I was looking at this card just either today or the other day, and that was definitely not the co-main event. Now I'm struggling.
I'll go to UFC.com and check it out. I'll look it up on the official.
The co-main event. Oh, Jermaine Duranamy. How?
It is. I was about to say, surely they would make it Jermaine Duranamy.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That would be the only thing really worth having as a co-main event here.
We have CR on the card as well.
Holy shit, this is a terrible card.
Darren Till, Bohan Velichko. Oh, Marbek Taisimov. That's a fight worth watching.
I mean, it's not like there have been worse cards this year, but this card is not.
It's not. No, it's
certainly not.
But UFC Gold's on the line, so that lives up or makes up for everything.
Yeah, that's true. You make a compelling case. And I don't hate the main event. It's one of those things that honestly, these fights they have the fights have purpose, and they're mostly look to be well matched as far as I can tell, just kind of giving it a once over. But holy shit, there's not a lot going on that would attract anybody to watch this outside of the absolute hardcores or people with fucking nothing else to do with their time.
There are 5 guys with no pictures on the UFC website, so right there, that's kind of a red flag.
It's not strong.
You have a lot of fighters fighting people. Oh, Nick Himes also out of that fight against no picture Zabit, not Magomed Sharapov. So now it'll probably be no picture versus no picture. How great, is that? So we'll talk about this card. Again, like a lot of these cards, it could end up being an interesting night of fights. It starts in the morning, so that's always fun. So we will talk about this next week. But for now, we will talk about Bellator, and next week we will finally do the long overdue Pettis Moreno fight night card results.
We will. Also, we want to have Wes there because off the top of my head, I think Wes had a good weekend that last weekend.
I'm pretty sure I won in every category, but you can say what you want.
I don't think that's true because you never win because you're a loser. So I'm pretty confident Wes had a good weekend. Either way, we want to have the whole family there. So this is just a little amuse-bouche for the hardcore BTB fans. And next week we'll get back to regularly scheduled programming.
All right. So with that, let's dive into what do we want to start with first, the real fight or the money fight?
We need to talk about the real fight.
Or John Jones. Something happened with John Jones.
We need to talk about the real fight, which is Jonathan Dwight Jones versus the state of California and USADA and Jeff Nowitzki and himself, because apparently he's a giant clusterfuck and likes to fuck himself over all the time. Really excited about it. I honestly super happy that happened yesterday. Like, I don't even care. Shamelessly enjoy it. I'm a fan of this sport because it is ridiculous. It's a clown show. It's a circus as you may have it. And both inside the cage, like anything can happen, and outside the cage, really anything can happen. And it was perfect timing because nobody was even thinking about it anymore. The story for 214 had been written. It was done. We'd all moved on to the next phase. Daniel Cormier had even already returned to Fox. He had, handled his loss as admirably as you can handle it. And then just suddenly from the clouds in the middle of the biggest fight week, arguably of all time, when all the websites around were all working hand over fist, burning candle at both ends to get all of the possible Maymac coverage out. Just from the clouds, USADA just goes, hey, guess what? It happened again. And it was enjoyable to me, just because I think it's funny as hell. And it was enjoyable to me because I hate Maymac. I hate everything about McGregor. I think it's terrible. And this was a nice diversion from it. And it's a really good story. So I am a huge fan of what has happened here.
Well, one thing I liked is that, we were talking about it briefly off air. I have done very little coverage of Maymac just because I'm not a fan like you. I don't like it, and I'll watch probably if I actually can find a stream and find ways to watch it on Saturday because I will be out of town, but I don't care that much. And it gave me something to write about that mattered, that wasn't Maymac. So that was a nice break from feeling bad that I'm writing about, Bellator and all this while everybody's here writing about the fight that supposedly matters. I feel the most sorry for the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series competitors last night because I don't think they got their fair share of attention. This happened as the second fight was going on, or either in between the first and second fight, or as the second fight was happening. I don't remember exactly. And Dana White, of course, goes back, leaves the fights, and feel bad for the first winner on that card. I forget his name. I want to say Espinoza, but that's definitely the Showtime guy. I don't know why he wasn't signed. He put on an amazing performance, a bit of a come from behind victory, really crazy round, and I guess Dana White maybe missed it as he got the phone call. So I feel bad for him, feel bad for the other guy that should have got the call to the UFC that did not. But Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series was something that actually happened last night. John Jones, hey, it's, are we that surprised? We shouldn't be. This has happened now. Well, this is the second USADA suspension, his third drug test failure in his UFC career. Of course, you can argue whether, cocaine should have really mattered or not, but it still was a drug test failure. And then, of course, last year, the certain substances in relation to UFC 200. It sucks. It doesn't suck. It kind of felt nice. I admit it kind of felt nice for the light heavyweight division to go back to normal last month. John Jones defeats his bitter rival DC, seemed to be getting his life kind of back on track. Maybe he was here to stay again, and then this all comes crashing down. It's I wasn't sure. When I renamed my podcast the MMA Circus, my dad actually sort of said to me, maybe Circus isn't. Be careful with that. Maybe think of something else, just because he figured that fighters would be offended going on a podcast called the MMA Circus as if I'm offending them in their sport and dissing the sport of mixed martial arts. But I think I have to say I think I look smarter each and every day with calling my podcast the Circus, because MMA is nothing short of that. I'm interested to see what happens now. It seems like it was Turnaball, some sort of steroid, anabolic steroid. I know Malky Kawa, his manager, confirmed that on the MMA Hour today in Vegas. So if that is the case, I don't know where they go. I mean, they'll test the sample. What's that?
Malky's a fucking asshole. Like, here's the thing, man. Here's the whole thing, and I didn't come out with a ton of comments because I wanted to kind of digest it, because I feel that this is the biggest story of the year. I know that reasonably, I guess Mayweather-McGregor is the biggest story of the year, and if Conor somehow fucking does the damn thing, then that's going to be the biggest story. But to me, Maymac is a fucking sideshow, goddamn. It's clickbait. Like, it's a fight made entirely of clickbait, and it's a tabloid piece of shit that nobody should actually give a fuck about. And this is actually substantive and the biggest story of the year to me. And so I wanted to kind of
Can I quickly jump in? Derek Brunson tweeted 5 hours ago. Someone retweeted it, so I just saw it. He said, I would trade May versus Mac fight to never have witnessed this John Jones news. You are so opposite that you and him are completely polar opposites with your opinion. You would trade May Mac for anything, and you enjoy the John Jones stuff.
Yeah, I think this is a real story. Maymac is stupid, and we'll get to that when we talk about it. And because I've been holding my tongue for the most part on the fight. I've been pretty vocal against it, but I got a lot more thoughts about it, and I'll unleash a lot of them now as it's almost here. But it's just fucking idiotic, and I don't really have the time or inclination or patience for it. This is a substantive story, and it's an interesting story. Like, MMA this year has been boring as shit. Like, I followed this sport for well over a decade at this point. I honestly don't even know how long I've been following this sport, but it's a long fucking time. And it goes through ups and downs. It goes through lulls. And I know that it's not fun for the interesting story to be something that kind of we reflexively hate, because arguably the best fighter of all time is an irreverent fuck-up who consistently gets in his own way. But it's a really compelling, interesting thing to me. And that's part of what's enjoyable, and nothing else has been interesting this whole year. The most interesting story attached to MMA has been Mayweather-McGregor, and I could not have more disdain in my heart for that if I tried. So what is the next best story of the year? Chris Cyborg beefing with the UFC and finally getting her belt that they had to get by just taking it away from Jermaine Durand to me? It's been a fucking down year, a boring year. The best story this year was John Jones's reclamation of himself. It was his, resurgence, his comeback, and kind of having a storybook ending to his career, finally getting his life in order. And now that the best story of the year has turned into something equally as interesting, if, more tragic instead of heroic or triumphant. So yeah, I don't give a fuck about Maymac. I think this is awesome, and I want to inject John Jones's failure into my veins directly. And I think I'll throw it back to you in a second. But the only other thing I want to say is Milky Cow is an asshole and an idiot. He's better than other people, but in the space. But like his whole thing, if we are confident that John Jones is going to get exonerated again, is bullshit. John Jones wasn't exonerated the first time. I'll be happy to go into the specifics. Anybody who is unaware, I read through the court documents. John Jones was not held, completely legally liable for it, but he was in no way exonerated. He was exonerated from knowingly taking steroids or whatever, clenbuterol or whatever the fuck you call it. I don't even remember.
Clomiphene, I think it is.
Clomiphene, something. He had two because there were two of them.
Yeah.
But he was exonerated from that, which reading the documents, I defer to Ian Kidd, who says that he thinks it's plausible by my recollection. I still felt that it was a little weird because he had some third substance in his system that wasn't there or whatever. But they basically said, you have a credible enough excuse for why this was in your system, but it was still recklessly negligent of you to have done this. So we are going to punish you for the maximum amount of time we are allowed to, which is 1 year. That's not exonerated. It's exonerated at best. Like if the best case scenario is I was a big dumbass, I don't consider that exoneration. Like, honestly, being stupid is almost as bad as being intentional in my mind, and for many, many things. Especially because I always think that you should look on any type of supplement excuse with a good deal of incredulousness, a good deal of skepticism. But beyond that, he's not going to get exonerated this time. Seems like they're saying tainted supplement again. Whether that's true, I don't know. Whether they're just going to go run through the gamut of supplements until they can find one that's going to show that it could have caused him to pop for Turinabol. Maybe that's possible. I don't know. To me, it's just fucking dumb. His bed, as far as I can figure, the best case scenario for John Jones is still a lengthy suspension here. Like, the only way I can see him avoiding a suspension, and it doesn't even seem like they're going to do that. If their whole excuse is tainted supplement again, then he's going to get probably 2 years. I haven't looked into this, but as a repeat offender, he's going to get more than the year he previously got for essentially doing the same fucking thing he did. Like, you were stupid and didn't test your shit, and then you failed.
One thing on that is, didn't he get one of the reasons he got the full suspension last year was because USADA has this thing where basically if you cooperate with USADA and sort of do your due diligence, even though you didn't do it enough or else you wouldn't have popped, you have a chance of getting reduced suspension because of that. Where here, and I mean, if Jones does cooperate and do what he should do and all of that, and as I said, cooperates well, I mean, 2 years minus maybe a little bit, but he's still looking at definitely more than a year out for sure, probably closer. And this is bare minimum. 1.5 year suspension is probably bare minimum, I would think. 2 years, and then if he isn't,
it's also different for the substance too, because the clomiphene isn't an actual steroid.
Yes.
The Turinabol is like an actual anabolic steroid, and that is like a minimum of 2 years. I think. I think that it is a minimum punishment of 2 years.
Well, actually, minimum or maximum is actually 2 years is actually the maximum. But in this case, since he's a repeat offender, he could get a 4-year suspension.
I thought it was 2 to 4 years.
Maybe. I kind of thought no, but you could be right.
Yeah, so I mean, he's a repeat offender. This is an actual anabolic steroid. Their argument at this point seems to be that they're going to bank it on a tainted supplement, and to me, that means he's going to get stripped again, and he's probably going to be sitting for at least 2 years, maybe more, depending on whatever else they find behind it. And frankly, I'm not for it. My thoughts on steroids have been aggressively told all the time. I don't give a fuck about them, but the only way he can get exonerated in my mind, and honestly I think realistically, is he either has to prove conspiracy, which seems like they also are kind of maybe flying this flag here. One of his training partners came out and said that Malky wouldn't disavow the idea that there's a fucking shadow entity trying to ruin John's career somehow. I just want this to be known. If you honestly think that there's a conspiracy to ruin John Jones, you're a fucking moron. And like, just turn this off because it's too highbrow for you. Go do something else. Like, read some books, get smarter, because holy shit, there's not a fucking false flag operation. Yeah, like, is it more ridiculous to believe that there are a bunch of operatives trying to ruin the career of a guy who generates millions of dollars, or that this dude is just a colossal, historically repetitive fuck up? Like, that's a thing. The only other way for him to exonerate himself, as far as I can, be aware, outside of pure conspiracy, is USADA has to have fucked up. They have to have switched the samples that they tested somehow, or combined blood samples. There has to be something and that is not unreasonable. Like, it's not unplausible. There's a possibility that happened. Labs fuck things up from time to time. It's really not, and that's a moonshot if you're banking on that. So John's going to be suspended for 2 years at minimum, maybe more. The UFC might tack on something else, depending on it. CSAC can add on outside of what USADA does. Like, it's a whole thing. And to me, the most interesting thing about this is sort of the reflexive way people process this stuff. And there's been a lot of fan support, just being like, well, he popped for an in-competition test, but he didn't fail any of his pre-fight, randoms. Like, that seems a little weird. Like, yeah, you're right. It is a little odd that he passed his random drug test but failed the one that he knew was coming up. But what you're saying, like, when you sort of purport this idea that, oh, he's probably innocent, something happened here, is you think it's more plausible that USADA fucked up, or that he, like, within the 2 days beforehand took a random tainted energy drink or whatever the fuck he did, another dick pill, than it is to think that, like...
Well, and it wouldn't have even been 2 days, because it was in between weigh-ins and the fight. It was right after the official weigh-in, so he would have had, like, maybe even just a matter of moments to pop something.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure on the timeline thing. I want to wait for that to be cleared up, because it was unclear to me, and I think that there might be more to that in general about when the test happened and when his other test happened. But yeah, like, we're talking a pretty narrow window of time, and I've heard a lot of the argument basically be like, it's impossible to be that dumb. There's no way he would be that stupid to pass his randoms and then fail the one he knew was coming up. And the crux of your argument is that John Jones, a man who has been arrested for wrapping a Bentley around a light pole, that it was in the car were 2 women who were not his fiancée, or hitting a pregnant woman with a car, and then fleeing the scene of an accident, but returning to grab a bunch of money and, I think, allegedly weed, but leaving, like, his pipe there or whatever, or a guy who, like, has made many questionable decisions. And so the crux of your argument is this guy is a super rational actor, which is a really fucking dumb thing when you actually say it out loud. I think that people just don't want to believe, like, Occam's razor really is a pretty appropriate thing. The simplest solution is usually the most correct one. I think the simplest solution here is everybody's on steroids in general. John Jones either knowingly takes steroids or knowingly takes supplements and or things to achieve goals that steroids also, are doing. So he took turinabol from what my understanding is, turinabol can also work as a diuretic, or like as a way to help weight loss in a short term. I don't know if that's true at all. That might be making something up, but the concept will hold for the argument in general, whether that's it, whether that's specifically accurate or not. He wanted a specific reaction. I want to get stronger, or I want to recover fast, or whatever. And he took an item that was told it would do that, and that item happened to be tainted with X amount of illegal substances. Like, I think it's just much more plausible to believe that he is either knowingly taking steroids or knowingly taking things that may or may not include illegal substances because he wants the effects of them, because everybody in the sport is doing that, and he got caught. And frankly, if he gets suspended for a long time, he's earned it. I think steroids are stupid. I think the idea of us, policing them is dumb, but go check other sports. Like there's tons of literature out there, tons of stuff about other sports. And this is my last point on it. There's a dude who got arrested. I can't remember any of the names here, but he gave like really candid interviews about doping in track and field, because like that was his thing. He was like the guy who provided drugs to all the top track and field athletes, and he came out and said everybody who's sprinting at an elite level is on steroids, every single one of them, because there's no physical way for them to compete over and over again at this level without taking them. And then he detailed how he did designer steroids that would pass tests, that would pass the newest tests coming up, because he would design them in such a way, and that they are expensive. But that holds true for John here. And this is going to sound ridiculous, but like, if you are going to do shit that you know is illegal, do it well, man. Like, just fucking it would not be that hard for John Jones to get designer steroids that he could piss clean with, especially considering the money he has available to him. So this is recklessly stupid. And if you're going to be recklessly stupid, you deserve whatever comes your way on the back end of it. I hope DC gets his belt back. I think it will be hilarious and a little bit tragic, but still super funny. So yeah, this is awesome. I'm really excited. I'm very excited about that story going forward.
Now, one thing, well, I have 2 points. I want to move on real quick, or very soon, just because we were here mostly to talk about Bellator and a little bit of May Mac, and here we are almost probably, I would assume, half an hour in and still on the man of the hour, John Jones, which is fine. But one thing I want to bring up is Mike Wicklejohn, his coach at Jackson Wink MMA in Albuquerque, he revealed just a few days after the fight on July 29th that John Jones had some sort of a fairly minor arm injury going into the fight. He hurt his arm in training. I think he was wrestling, and just during fight week, very small stuff, very light stuff, and twisted something, hurt it a little bit. And I just wonder if maybe these are connected. I wonder if, although Turnbull, again, I don't know tons about it. Go to Ian Kidd or someone else. I know he has a piece up there explaining what Turnbull is really, but I just wonder if he figured, okay, I need to find some sort of supplement or some sort of drug to help me fight with this somewhat minor injury, and then he came upon this. And the other thing, which isn't it's moving on from John Jones, but it's more just a bit more generic. Tainted tainted supplements have been they've been at the limelight recently. Within the past, I would say, a year and a half. Once USADA got going, I think it kicked off with Yoel Romero and Tim Means. They both had the substance in their system. I can't remember what it was. It clomiphene? Maybe it was. No, I don't think so. But they had the banned substance, and it was tainted supplement, a contaminated supplement, and that sort of paved the road for a lot of other fighters. I know Junior Dos Anjos just popped, and they're already saying it must have been a contaminated supplement. My question to you, and you probably don't know anything more than I do or have an answer to this, and my question to anybody is, where are these supplements coming from that they're so shady? They have something in them that's not on the label. They're contaminated. I mean, going through this process.
Supplements, so in the United States, supplements aren't regulated by the FDA. So like that's the thing. So when people argue, like when any fighter argues tainted supplements, I immediately dismiss that as credible. Like maybe it's true. Maybe maybe Romero took a tainted supplement and that supplement had this in it, and that's why it's in the system. I'm willing to believe that that's accurate. I also don't give two shits about it because that's really dumb. It's an incredibly dumb argument to me on its face. Like at this point, everybody's aware that supplements are inherently risky if you're in the fight business. And to me, that's a cost of doing business. If you think that you need a supplement, if you think you need to take this supplement and it ends up having something in it, to me, that's the same. I don't give a shit. I think we should allow all of it in. I've said that a million times, but if we're not going to, this is just a ridiculous argument. Like fighters should be responsible for what is put in their bodies to the extent of which they are making choices. Risky choice or whatever. If you genuinely eat a steak, and somehow that steak was tainted with turinabol, then okay, that's not on you. You just went to Outback and got a steak and they fucked up somehow. Okay, I'm willing to give you that.
But I sort of disagree with you here, just because supplements, an average person takes supplements. We take vitamins. We take, I know people that take supplements, daily. It's just sort of now,
People
it's just
professional
routine.
fighters.
No, I know, but
With money on the line.
You have to assume that what is on the label is in there. And I know that's not the case in many situations, or appears to me not the case, but how can we fault fighters for taking something that, according to the branding and according to the ingredients labels and all of that, it is completely 100% A-OK to take according to USADA's and the UFC's anti-doping policies. But then you do the drug test, you fail, and you realize, oh, there's something in there that, well, there's no way of me knowing it's in there. Do fighters at this point really have to drug test on their own, which costs a bit of money, their own supplements? I mean, no, I know
they don't have to take them. They don't have to take them. Here's the thing about it. Like I said, I think it's stupid. We should let them all take whatever the fuck they want. But if we're going to have these rules, this is dumb, because they don't have a right to take supplements. It is not. We're not talking.
But it's not illegal to take them.
No, it's illegal by the rules if it is tainted with an item. And the risk is on them. It is a conscious choice here. We're not talking about prison. You're right. If we were talking about a crime, absolutely. Then if they're not culpable of intent, they're not. It's not a right to fight in the UFC. It's not a right to do this. So you take on the risk. If you everything we have found out about supplements, everybody knows that they are a non-regulated food item. That's on you if you choose, because there are plenty of fighters who aren't testing positive. So what is Demetrius Johnson doing that's different than John Jones?
Flintstone, vitamins, and nothing else.
Yeah, okay, then that's it. And he hasn't had that fucking problem. To me, if you take any supplement and you pop as a result of it, it is the same, and I don't give a shit. You knew it was a chance. If you knew that there was a possibility something you did might come back on you in a bad way, you don't then get to cry innocent to me. Oh, well, as soon as I failed the drug test, I figured, oh, shit, this supplement I'm taking, it probably was, I know I didn't actually shoot turinabol up my ass with a syringe, but this fucking pill I took from G Fuel or whoever, I probably did it. So you knew that there was at least some level of risk. Well, that's dumb. You shouldn't have done it. You are not a child. I don't need to hold your hand on this shit. You're an adult and a professional athlete, and you need to be responsible for the decisions you're making and held culpable for them.
And so
it's just dumb.
The difference between it being your fault that there's something in the supplement that, according to the label, it's not in there, versus eating a steak at the Outback restaurant down the street and remember all of the Asian fighters, Li Jinglong was one of them, among others, that had some sort of supplement in their beef, I think it was some sort of meat, and they, it was found, they popped, but then they were was cleared and all of that. But I guess the difference is because everyday food, I don't know exactly, is tested by or cleared by the FDA, while supplements are not. So is that the one difference? Why?
Pretty much, there's no inherent risk to if you go to a grocery store, there is not some part of you that knows, oh, this zucchini might have fucking barbiturate in it or whatever. It's just oh, you just look at it and go, this is a zucchini.
But the same argument can be made about a supplement.
Because it's a supplement, and we have been down this road. We know that it's a non-regulated thing. We have, at the minimum, you have seen countless other people have supplements that are tainted.
So that was my initial question. Because it is not cleared and looked at by the FDA, that is the one difference between eating a steak that has something whatever in it versus taking the supplement.
Yeah, in general, it is. And again, I think we should let them all do all the juice they want. I don't give two shits about juice. But if we're going to pretend like this is a thing, if this is going to be a thing that we have deemed to matter, that we think these supplements are giving it an inherent advantage, then the intent of them, the advantage is gained by it being in their system. It's not gained because they intended to take it or didn't. Oh, John Jones had turinabol in his system, and that made him a better fighter. According to the argument, the logic of the argument says it made him a better fighter than he was allowed to be. So whether he intended it to be there or not, he still, doesn't get to reap the benefits of it to me. I just have zero patience for this fucking thing. And I'm just done with it. Like I'm done with everybody claiming tainted supplement, whether it's true or not. If you're still doing it, then you're a fucking dumbass. Like Demetrius, do what Demetrius Johnson is. Whatever just call him and be like, hey DJ, what do you eat? How do you just go shop at the farmer's market? Like, I just want to not fail this because it's not that important to me to do this. And he's like, oh, I take a regular glass of milk every morning or whatever the fuck he does. Like, it's plenty of people aren't failing. So if you're failing, you did something wrong. Like, you almost always did something at least a little bit wrong. There are the occasional things, but mostly you were at least somewhat negligent, and I just don't have fucking time or patience for it anymore. Like, it's not that hard. It's just not that hard.
It would be interesting to talk to the people behind these supplements and just asking them, how can, the steroid or whatever be found in your supplement and not be, I guess this happens in the world, contaminated stuff all the time, but it definitely is. I'm curious, just as the guy sort of looking in from the outside, just wondering, where do these fighters get these supplements from? I mean, some are clean, obviously. Most fighters take supplements, and very few of them pop. But in a drug test. So I just wonder, where are the ones that are popping? Where do they get their supplements from? It's an interesting question.
You know what's happening? They're taking steroids, and then afterwards, or banned substances, and afterwards they're finding a supplement that's tainted to fit their needs.
That was my one idea. Yeah,
let's just be honest here. That's what's happening, because everybody's on it. Everybody's on steroids. I firmly am of the Nick Diaz school. Everybody's on steroids.
You just think the fighters that don't pop are just the smarter ones?
I think they're doing it better. It's not that hard to beat tests in general. I think they're just doing it better. I think every professional athlete of any level is on something, especially the very elite fighters. There are very few fighters on the planet that I think probably are genuinely clean fighters. The Diaz brothers, BJ Penn, and that's more because they're just lifestyle people. If you're actually a competitive
what about
fighter,
GSP?
No, I think he's on. I mean, I think every fighter who's going to compete, and I don't blame them. I don't make a moral judgment. I think you should be doing these things, but I just think a vast, vast majority of fighters are on it because it's sports, and it's everybody in the NFL, everybody in the NBA, everybody in NHL, everybody in badminton or whatever. They're all just on shit. They're all fucking on it.
All of those ping pong players overseas.
Dude, ping pong players are 100% on shit. Are you kidding me? Dude, anything that in any sport endeavor or athletic game, whatever, in which a lot of money is involved, drugs, anything that gets you an advantage is going to be ubiquitous, because once one guy gets the advantage, then everybody else needs it to catch up. That's just the way of the world. And I'm okay with it. I think the whole thing's stupid, but I'm really excited that John Jones is about to break another record and be the first fighter in UFC history to be stripped of 3 titles, because that's just hilarious. The best fighter we've ever seen is also the worst guy at doing his job. It's incredible. It's incredible.
And the fact that all 3 belt strippings, if you want to call it that, will happen in the span of almost 2 years. It'll be definitely less than 2.5 years, I would assume, which is just insane. But that was also interesting.
You know what else is insane? He's still 30. Even if he gets the 4 year, he can come back. He'll come back and be younger than Daniel Cormier was when he started his run.
Absolutely.
He'll come back and still be way more skilled and competing in 2 divisions that are just fucking trash fires. He'll come back and can win tired.
In 4 years, I hope the division landscapes have changed for both light heavyweight and heavyweight, but I won't be shocked if we still have Stipe, Verdum, Kane, Overeem. Then we go Josh Barnett, Ben Rothwell, Arlovsky in there.
I think they'll change a little bit, but they're still going to be of the same quality.
Yeah.
John Jones is going to come back in 4 years and still be the best fighter. Assuming he doesn't.
Heavyweight's not going to turn it into lightweight in 4 years. That's just
no fucking chance. So he's going to come back and get titles again. It's going to be incredible.
And then he's gonna pop again, and then he'll come back when he's 40 and
Nah, then
pop
he's gonna
again.
like shoot somebody or do something also stupid. Like
Uh,
it's gonna be all. John Jones is the gift that keeps on giving to this sport. If you just can completely throw out the fact that he's an amoral sociopath, he's awesome. So I think this is great. I can't wait to see Daniel Cormier again when he comes back. I assume that Ariel will get an interview with him in the next, like, maybe for next Monday's MMA Hour. Honestly, it's going to be amazing. I'm so excited.
yes, well, the saga of John Jones continues. Quick plug here. I was the first to talk to Vulcan and get his reaction to the drug test. So check that out. The article is up on Bloody Elbow as of 24 hours ago. All right. Let's move on to Bellator 182. The main thing we were planning on talking about from the get-go goes down on Friday night from the Turning Stone Casino in Verona, New York, the USA, August 25th. Of course, Bellator 182. Main event, Andre Koreshkov, the former Bellator welterweight champion, of course, is coming off the loss to Douglas Lima, who's now the new champ again, taking on Chidi Njokuani. Co-main event's pretty fun. Brennan Ward and Fernando Gonzalez at welterweight. We have rising star AJ McKee at featherweight on the card as well, taking on Blair Tugman. George Karakhanyan's on the card. Noad Lahat and Henry Corrales is a really underrated matchup, I feel, at featherweight. What else do we have here? Chris Honeycutt, Kevin Casey, Colleen Schneider's on the card. Vadim Nebkov from Risen, and Joey Davis, want to know prospect. That's basically it. But top to bottom, pretty fun card. Main card isn't as stacked as I once thought it was. I remember thinking of this card and thinking, oh, this is an incredible card. It's a fun card. It's a good card because the prelims are so stacked, way more stacked than usual. You have, again, the prelims. Well, it's only a 4-5 main card. So on the prelims, you have Karakhanyan, Noah Lahat, Corrales, Ricky Rainey, and Mark Stevens, Honeycutt Casey, Schneider, Nemkov, Joey Davis. So prelims are a lot better than usual. Main card is average, but still fun. So let's go through some of these fights. I'm just trying to think where we should start. Let's start with Noah Lahat and Henry Corrales, because I do think that this is one of the sleeper fights of the card. I think the whole card is a sleeper card. I think we'll see some fun fights, but nobody's at all going to be watching, and certainly no one's going to be there media-wise covering it. Noah Lahat, though, this is his third Bellator appearance, if I am correct. Henry Corrales hasn't fought for a little while. At featherweight, of course, is where the fight will take place. Who is your pick here?
Let me ask you a question first. Why did Noah Lahat get released by the UFC?
I think it was just another.
Or did he just sign a contract because Bellator somehow? Like, I can't imagine Coker
I
backed
think
up
he
the money
did.
truck for him.
No, I think he did 4 fights, and then Bellator just had the better offer. I don't think he got cut because he just had the one loss to Diego Rivas, the Flying
No, he
Knee.
lost to Godofredo Pepe too.
Did he?
Yeah, he lost to Godofredo Pepe and Diego Rivas, but he got picked up a couple wins too. Like he was 2-2. I mean, it's like I could see the
the
UFC
Pepe, yeah, the Pepe fight was in 2014. That was his debut. So he was on a 2-fight winning streak when the
he got
Rivas fight
savagely
happened,
knocked out by Godofredo Pepe. It was awesome.
Yes. So he had 4 fights in the UFC. So it seems like I believe, if I recall correctly, in
2-2. It's reasonable that they could have let him go, but you're a guy who picked up some wins, and then his 2 losses were both really entertaining knockouts. So, like, I was just kind of curious. Like, they could have kept him around. Like, they didn't need to keep him around or whatever. But he's an AKA fighter. Like, I sort of would have assumed he would have gotten another crack at the UFC, but nonetheless, he is taking on Henry Corrales, who has among my least favorite tattoos in the history of MMA. You see a lot of he's got a chain link tattoo, and every guy who has the chain link tattoo is just awful to me. Like, I just don't know. That
means he's a great fighter.
Is it?
He was born in the cage.
Is that what it means, or does it mean he has just a terrible tattoo? Because I think it's just that. I think it's just that. I think everybody who has that tattoo immediately makes me dislike them. And he doesn't have just like a little section. He's got like the full broad chest. It's just like, you're not going to wake up at 80 and think that was a good idea.
Well, that's what I think about all tattoos. Like 99% of UFC fighters, the fighters in general, have tattoos. So if any fighters are watching, well, I'm not really sorry. I hate tattoos. I'm not a fan of them at all.
Many fighters are
I just
watching.
wonder.
Don't worry. He's a young kid. He'll grow up. He'll want some. He'll go through a wild phase.
Next before the battle, yeah. Next before the battle episode next week. Remember the Jocko guy, the guy who did that stare down with Ben Wen before Ben Wen was in the UFC. He was very popular on YouTube, and then it was the Australian guy. He was dating actually Evan Smith for a little bit, got in his face, and he got knocked out. Recall that guy? No? You're muted, but
Sorry, not really. I don't know why my mic was muted.
well, he had face tattoos literally covered in. That's what you're gonna see next week on Before the Battle. But yes, I just wonder with tattoos. Tattoos are somewhat new. I mean, you don't see a lot of old people today with tattoos. I just wonder, we're going to see a ton of old people with tattoos in 60 years. I just wonder, that's the biggest mistake of your life. I mean, maybe not. You might have a sad life if getting a tattoo is the biggest mistake. But, yeah, it's not good. And a cage, definitely not any better.
You're young, yeah. But the cage is a terrible tattoo. But, yeah. Oh, yeah, as far as this fight goes, Henry Corrales hasn't beaten anybody good. I mean, I guess depending, on your thoughts on Cody Bollinger.
His nickname definitely seems reasonable for who he is.
What's his nickname?
Okay.
God damn. Why are you even trying, dude? Oh, is he from like Oklahoma or some shit? What the fuck is that about?
No, he's from California.
He
just knows he's never going to go further.
Maybe he's just really self-aware. I don't know. But yeah, he hasn't beaten anybody worth shit, and he's lost every good fighter he's faced. And I think Noah Lahat is honestly, I think he's a decent fighter. I don't think he's a great fighter. I think he could be a UFC, like hang around in the UFC featherweight division. He's not going to be anybody that's great, but he'll be in that sort of lower tier guy who hangs around, does enough to mostly stay in, maybe gets washed out every once in a while, but makes his way back after a couple wins on a regional circuit. Maybe that's just what this is now. He's in Bellator for a few wins, and then he'll pop back up in the UFC again. I like Lahat to win probably. That's interesting. I think he'll end up getting a choke somewhere. He's still a decent grappler, and Henry Corrales has been choked out by the two best fighters he's ever faced. So, and granted, both Patricio Freire and Daniel Strauss are better fighters than Noah Lahat by a goodly sum. But yeah, to me, that's what happens here.
Yeah, I like Noah Lahat here as well. I like him by, I'll say second round submission. I don't think he gets, wraps something up in the first 5 minutes. But I think once he warms up, once both guys warm up, I think he does sink in some sort of choke in the second round. Henry Corrales, I'm kind of high on him. He's like the worst good fighter in Bellator, or maybe the best bad fighter in Bellator. He loses to the people he should lose to. Although granted, I mean, he has fought literally the best of the best. He fought Daniel Strauss in his debut. That's certainly not a good matchup for him. And then he fought Emmanuel Sanchez, who's been doing really well. Lost a split, so give him credit there for sure for going the distance. And clearly, I don't recall the fight too much, but it was a split, and unless it was a bad call, it was a close fight. And then you, of course, had the current reigning champ, Patricio Pitbull Freire. So certainly no easy outings. And then you had the Cody Bollinger knockout win in January of this year. So he beats the guys again he should, and he loses to the people who are at the top of the division. Noah Lahat is not quite at the top of the division. He's a middle of the road guy, as you sort of alluded to, but he's definitely good enough. I think he's a bit more he's just better. He's a bit more not fresh, as complete as a fighter, as a mixed martial artist. Corrales is very scrappy, but Lahat a bit more technical. And Corrales, well, 2 of his 3 Bellator losses have been by submission, both of them actually by guillotine choke. And I don't think Lahat is a master guillotine artist, but still good on the match. And I think he locked something up, as I said, in the second round. Moving on, we have a featherweight bout between Georgi Karakhanyan and Daniel Pineda. We mentioned this off air real briefly. I don't know much about Pineda. I checked out his record. He seems to be a guy who's good at everything but not great at anything. He's a vet. His record is 22-12. Tiny bit more experience than Karakhanyan, who also is a vet at 26-7-1. Karakhanyan, I believe, is favored probably somewhat substantially. Who I would imagine you're favoring Georgie here.
Yeah, I'm definitely favoring Georgie. I don't know what the actual odds are on it, if there even are odds
There
on
are
it.
no odds.
But yeah, I mean, look, Pineda's basically the definition of a journeyman. He has popped around on most of the major organizations. I think you might be seeing my dog in the background making an
Yes,
appearance.
and it is great.
Yeah, it's nice to have him show up.
Is his name okay too?
No, his name is Wilson.
Okay.
So Wilson, way to make your first appearance on Before the Battle. But yeah, he's been in Legacy, the UFC. Now he's doing a stint in Bellator. He actually fought in the UFC for like a while. I think he has like 5 or 6 fights, maybe even 10. I remember him fighting there for a little bit, like a little stretch of time, but I don't. He never jumps out at you because he's really a meat and potatoes guy. Mostly going to try and wrestle at these BJJ brown belt. And he's just fighting against the guy who's better. Like Georgie Karakhanyan he's a weird guy because I often think he's better than he is in my head until I watch him fight. And then I'm like, oh, you're really not that great of a fighter. But he is a very competent fighter. And I think it's just the Lance Palmer win really still kind of sticks with me. I was high on Lance Palmer for a while, and he beat Lance Palmer, who I still think is actually a pretty good fighter. But even aside from that, he's got other good wins that dot his resume. And his losses have mostly been to really good fighters. Joe Warren, especially at the time he lost to him, was a good fighter. Patricio Freire, still a good fighter. Daniel Weichel, Pat Curran. The majority decision loss to Emmanuel Sanchez might portend bad things. Maybe Georgie's, because Emmanuel Sanchez is not a bad fighter by any stretch, but certainly a tier below the other guys that have previously beaten Georgie. So maybe that means Georgie's been in the game a long time. I think he's a 10-year vet, maybe 12-year vet at this point. You're around the time when you might start to see him fade. But again, Pineda is basically more of a journeyman than Georgie is. I think Georgie's final form is also journeyman, really, but Pineda's living in that journeyman wheelhouse, and Georgie's just going to be able to do everything a little bit better and take a decision.
Yeah, I have nothing else to add. Again, as I said, I'm a lot more familiar with Georgie Karakhanyan as a whole than I am with Pineda, but Karakhanyan, the odds aren't out, but I suspect he'll be a sizable favorite. It's not going to be ridiculous just because there is the chance that Georgie is declining ever so slightly. I know he's saying different, but fighters always say that.
John Jones said he was clean.
Exactly. It's probably going to be a pretty good fight back and forth. I suspect this will mostly take place on the feet. I think Karakhanyan just outpoints him by a little bit. I think it'll be clear, but not super dominant. Let's move on to Chris Honeycutt and Kevin Casey. Of course, we're still on the prelims. This fight, I think it's a middleweight fight. Yeah, middleweight. I always look at Kevin Casey and think he's 205, but certainly 185. He continued his streak of wacky fights. In his last fight, it was, I believe, a majority draw in his Bellator debut. Yes, majority draw to Keith Berry. Before that, it was a knockout loss to Sam Alvey. Before that, a draw against Elvis Mutapchik. Before that, a loss to Hoffman Natal. Before that, a no contest against Shoeface Antonio Carlos Jr. Picked up his last win, July 15, 2015. Ever since then, it's been gray and red, if you're looking at your dog. Kevin Casey and Chris Honeycutt.
God damn, I just forgot that Kevin Casey has had a really weird, last year, essentially. 2 draws is not a common thing at ever. One of them being a split draw, which is wild.
And then mixing in a no contest that, happened 20 seconds into that fight.
Oh, yeah, geez. And the Shoeface no contest. God, man, what a weird-ass collection of fights. Dude, why are we even picking this fight? He's probably going to, pass out, but Chris Honeycutt's going to knock himself out at the same time. It's going to be fucking weird. Honestly, yeah, I'm going to predict that Chris Honeycutt goes for a takedown and knocks himself out, a la Gray Maynard, and we have a no contest because this is just fucking wild. God, I forgot Kevin Casey existed until you said we were going to talk about this fight, and then just going over it, it's fucking nutty, man. He got knocked out by Rafael Natal too, which is not that doesn't portend great things. Rafael Natal is Rafael Natal. Chris Honeycutt is a sort of a strange guy, in that you'd think he would be like a really great prospect, with his wrestling pedigree and background, which is extensive and accomplished. Hold on one second. Excuse me. But he hasn't really had that type of performance that makes you, get excited or jump out. His most notable performances are the no contest against Paul Bradley, and then when they ran it back, Paul Bradley fucking knuckle dusted him. Since then, he's put together 3 wins. He's a boring ass fighter who's just gonna shoot takedowns, control on top, and fortunately for him, that's a pretty successful strategy against Kevin Casey. Kevin Casey's a black belt, but I just don't think he's going to tap Chris Honeycutt. So this is just going to be Chris Honeycutt controlling Kevin. If my memory serves, I think that's like how Kevin Casey lost in the Tough House. He was just like taken down and controlled a bunch. And I think that the same sort of thing is going to happen here. Maybe I don't think much of Chris Honeycutt's offensive capabilities, so I don't even think he's going to be able to pound him out. I just think that's going to be a really boring decision. But I want to see Chris Honeycutt develop. I hope he's getting better. I hope he's adding piece to the game because he has the base to be a pretty good fighter. And the middleweight division could use fucking help at this point. But it seems like he might be one of those wrestling busts. Like Bubba Jenkins isn't really a bust per se, but really high hopes coming in and is not going to live up to even a tenth of what we would want from him. So we'll see.
Could be the story of Aaron Pico. We'll have to see. This fight is weird, and I honestly don't really know what will happen. I mean, if it's a draw, I won't be shocked. I mean, Kevin Casey could start out really well, gas as he usually does, and Honeycutt takes over and has a 10-8 in there somehow, and I don't know. It could happen. We see, as you were predicting, Honeycutt knocking himself out, maybe. This is, it's weird. Kevin Casey, I always looked at the guy and thought he could be an okay fighter. He has potential, and just he blows every fight away. It seems fight IQ not quite there. He gasses. The guy is athletic, but I think I finally just realized he's not a good fighter. Chris Honeycutt's not fantastic. He's not amazing. He's okay, like Henry Corrales. I think he takes Casey down. I think he's able to control him. I think he grinds him out. Kevin Casey's athletic, but again, he just struggles defense, offense in general, not super active. That's a very weird fighter. Not weird personality, but just in the cage. You expect so much more, and some of the things he does just boggles your mind. I think Honeycutt gets the win here. Again, a draw wouldn't shock me just by what Kevin Casey has done in the past year and a bit. The Honeycutt, though, is the official pick, I'll say, in a fairly lackluster decision. Just a couple notes from earlier on in the prelims. We're not really going to go over this. Colleen Schneider is on the card. She's always somewhat fun to watch. She's taken on Kate Jackson. Don't know about anything about Jackson, so that's why I'm not going to really break this one down. But Colleen probably takes that one. Vadim Nemkov, if you are a Risen guy, you may remember him from the first 2 Risen shows back at the end of December 2015. He made it to the semis in the Grand Prix tournament, lost to Jiri Prokaja, and then who got knocked out in the finals by King Mo. So he's a good fighter. He's fun to watch. He's taking on Philippe Lins. So he's a guy to keep your eye out for. Ricky Rainey and Mark Stevens should actually be a pretty fun fight. Mark Stevens super tough, pretty gritty. Rainey a bit more sniper-like, pretty good on the feet. Tough one to call there. Let's move on and talk about AJ McKee. AJ McKee, 8-0 as a pro. Only has one loss on his record, including his amateur, and that was a long time ago. The guy is one of the hottest prospects in Bellator in the featherweight division, maybe even in all the sport. This is a guy who is a prospect. I look at Aaron Pico, sure, he's great in wrestling and all that, but as we've talked about when Aaron Pico got choked out a couple months back, you know, doing well in wrestling or boxing doesn't always translate to MMA. And it's tough to consider a guy a prospect who has no fights or even one fight. But AJ McKee, the guy's done really well. He's been in the sport for a little while, been in Bellator his entire pro career. This is what you consider a prospect. He's 22 years old. His father was a fighter. I think his grandfather was even a fighter. He's taken on Blair Tuckman. He's being built up incredibly slowly. To me, almost too slowly. I like fighters to be when they're built up slowly, gives them time to develop. And I understand where Bellator is coming from. He's young. He's still a bit green in a way, but he's done really well. I feel like it's a time for a step up, and maybe he does get that step up with a big win over Blair Tuckman. The guy is a huge favorite. I think minus 1,200, maybe even more. A line like that is always too high unless it's McGregor Mayweather. And so, I guess it's a little bit off, but realistically, he should be close to that. He's, big favorite for a good reason. I would imagine you're picking him to win here.
Yeah, I'm going to pick him to win here. AJ McKee doesn't suck at fighting, and to Tugman's credit, he's on like a 3-fight winning streak in Bellator, which is, it's not nothing, but dude, come on. What the fuck are we doing here?
He's not a bad fighter, but he's definitely at the lower tier.
He's gonna get fucking blown out. He's gonna get his face kicked off. Like, this is, yeah. AJ McKee wins by whatever the hell he wants.
My only thing here is that AJ McKee, before his last head kick knockout win over Dominic Mazzota earlier this year, I believe it was in April, he did have 2 decisions in a row. That was the first time he went to the judges. And so clearly maybe not the performances he was hoping for. It was good, but it was bad. It was good because we got to see that he has the cardio, he has the will to go 3 rounds, but it was bad because then we started to think, okay, maybe we slow down the hype train. Maybe he's a bit green, not as good as we thought. But so that's my only concern as far as if you're going to bet like the under or McKee by knockout or McKee in first round. Seems pretty safe, but just keep in mind, okay, he did have 2 pretty recent fights, both go to the judges. So I don't think AJ McKee by knockout is a complete lock. I think he knocks out Tuckman, but just keep in mind if you're a betting man that McKee, under 1.5 rounds might not cash. Maybe even the over might be the better bet, assuming that's plus money. But nonetheless, I do think he knocks him out, but just keep in mind it's not, he did have those 2 decisions, so anything is possible. Moving on, let's talk about the co-main event of the evening. Brennan Ward taking on Fernando Gonzalez at welterweight. Pretty fun fight. Both guys are at similar spots. Gonzalez is coming off that win over Brandon Gertz, and Ward is coming off that loss. I believe his last fight was against Paul Daly. The vicious knockout against Paul Daly. Who is your pick right now? Gonzalez is the ever so slightly the favorite.
Really?
Ward last time, yes. Ward last time I checked was plus 100. Gonzalez was like minus 110. It's been flipping back and forth. I think Ward actually opened as the slight favorite. Who is your pick, Ward or Gonzalez?
Well, if you're gonna place a bet on these cards, I would fucking take Brennan Ward at plus money. I mean, look, I'm not saying Brennan Ward's a great fighter. I guess you're not going to hear those words out of my mouth fucking ever. And there's something to be said for the fact that he did get fucking emasculated by Paul Daly. Like, that is one of the contenders for knockout of the year. Just absolutely brutal jump knee. And it, that was earlier this year, but it wasn't like that was a month ago. I imagine he's going to recover okay from that. And I don't know, man. Brennan Ward is like not a bad fighter, and I just don't think much of Fernando Gonzalez. I know that he's actually also like sort of a cagey fighter in that he, made Michael Page work a little more, beat Brandon Gertz, which is a decent win. He's got a win over Caro, which means almost nothing anymore. So I think his best wins are mostly over people who like well outside of a win over that person would have mattered. Like beating Mario Soromsky, that's nothing. That's not who gives a shit anymore. Mario says he hasn't been good in a decade. And he's got a lot of. It's weird that for a guy to have as many losses as Gonzalez did on like the regional circuit, picked up loss in like King of the Cage and Gladiator Challenge and some other things I don't even know. Usually a guy who's going to be sort of in the position he's in did not take those losses early in his career when he was doing the regional circuit. But yeah, basically this is me believing that Brennan Ward is just less bad than Fernando Gonzalez, I guess. I mean, maybe that's wrong with me. I don't know. It seems in my head, I was just really shocked that I assumed Brennan Ward would be a favorite here. And so I'm very shocked for you to tell me that Fernando Gonzalez is a favorite. So maybe I'm missing something. But yeah, I don't know. I'll take Brennan Ward. I think Fernando Gonzalez is he's a tough dude though. In general, like, so I don't think Brennan Ward is gonna get him out of there most likely. But maybe that's why. Maybe he's just gonna be tough, and Brennan Ward is not, questionable cardio. I think you can argue with him. Not a guy who sees the later rounds all that often in general. Maybe the idea is that Fernando Gonzalez just kind of absorbs the kicking and then takes over late. I guess I could see that happening. I'll still take Brennan Ward. I think he's got more potent offense, certainly. And that's enough for me. So give me Brennan Ward by decision, I guess.
Yeah, I like Brennan Ward here as well. And a little surprised. I'm not shocked that the odds are as close as they are, but I'm a little surprised, though, nonetheless, to see Ward at plus money as you are as well. I just, this is going to be a stand-up fight. Both guys can maybe take it to the ground if they want, but I think they're going to stand and trade for the most part. I think it'll be a pretty fun fight back and forth. Gonzalez will certainly have his moments. He's a super tough fighter and pretty underrated. I mean, he's not a guy you hear much about, but he's actually an okay fighter. He's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination. He's a gritty guy. He has decent striking. He's somewhat well-rounded. He's a good fighter. He's middle of the road. I'm never going to win the belt, but
he's a journeyman's journeyman. And to me, Brendan Ward is just a notch above that. Like, he's a journeyman, but he's not. Brendan Ward is a journeyman who bounces around between the UFC and Bellator, maybe a one fight in Legacy or whatever. Fernando Gonzalez is a dude who's going to make his way into both the UFC and Bellator. He's also going to have a stretch in Legacy. He's going to have a stretch where he just does like a regional smoker in the Midwest somewhere. Like, that's sort of the breakdown to me here, which is stupid and not great, but that's my breakdown.
Yeah, I think Ward's just a bit more technical. He's not quite as aggressive, I don't think, but I think he's a bit sharper. I think he's a bit crisper. I think he uses a bit more offense on the feet. I think he just is able to outpoint Gonzalez on the feet. It's not the best technical analysis by any means, but that's what I got. I mean, Ward is just a bit better on the feet. That's where it's going to take place, and Gonzalez is going to get beat up a little bit. I think it'll be close again. I think, both guys have their moments. I think Ward just has more moments than his opponent. So Brendan Ward by pretty close decision. I'm not going to go quite as far as a split, but it's going to be back and forth. It's going to be fun. Main event time, Andre Koreshkov, the former Bellator welterweight champion, coming off the loss to Douglas Lima, taking on Chidi Njokuani. He is coming off that kind of bizarre win over Melvin Gillard. Who
Same
are you
picking?
Was that? Yeah,
same concept.
Pretty much. Koreshkov, pretty big favorite here. I think right around minus 250, maybe even into 300s. Of course, the comeback, Chidi, you can get decent odds on him at plus money if you are favoring him. Jed, do you like the former champ here or Njokuani?
I think you got to take Koreshkov here, but I'm really interested to see. This is just a big this is a jump up for Njokuani. Like, if he makes a leap here and wants to announce himself, this is an opportunity for him to announce himself. I mean, certainly to the division, but to the world in a way. Like if he comes up and wins this fight, then he's going to get the challenge for the belt. That's going to be a huge step up for him as far as recognition and stuff. And if he doesn't, we can see that maybe he's still, despite having a pretty lengthy career, I still sort of feel like he's a bit of a prospect. Not really. He's at the point where he needs to make the leap, or he's going to settle into a fringe guy. He's clearly above a journeyman. He'd be a guy who could hang around the UFC forever. He could just stay in the UFC for the rest of his career if he was in the UFC. And I guess in Bellator, that the corollary there is a guy who will always be on the cusp of a title shot, probably get one at some point just because of the kind of way their divisions are built. But Koreshkov is a guy who's a former title holder in Bellator, and he's gonna try and get his way back to a trilogy fight with Douglas Lima. I think if he beats Njokuani, he's still gonna have to get a couple more wins. Whereas if Njokuani beats Koreshkov, he might just have to wait for Rory and then just be next in line after that. This is an opportunity sort of for Koreshkov to maybe showcase that, hey, I'm still here. I'm still doing the damn thing. And I know that Rory and Douglas are at some point going to, have to call to account to one another, but I want to be, next in line after that. I'm interested to see how Koreshkov rebounds. He got fucking melted by Douglas Lima in a fight that I thought he was losing before then, if I recall correctly. And it's just interesting to see. But to me, you have to pick Koreshkov. His size is enormous. I actually think Njokuani is probably going to be able to sort of match his size and physicality, which is not a thing that happens to Koreshkov a lot, because he is a pretty good sized welterweight. So that actually is an interesting sort of a wrinkle here. But Koreshkov has just beaten a lot of good guys. He's been in there with some of the best the division has to offer outside of the UFC. And, he's got to win over Douglas Lima, who I hold in high regard. He beat the hell out of Benson Henderson, who is still a really good fighter, even though I think pretty obvious he's on a decline. Ben Askren schooled him, but he hung in there with Ben Askren for 4 or 5 rounds. And Njokuani just hasn't faced that level of competition. Maybe Njokuani steps up. I think Njokuani, if he can kind of make a leap and keep it on the feet and kind of use that range, use that length, I think he has a chance here. He's an absurd reach for the division. So yeah, I'm really interested in this fight. I actually do think it's a very good fight. Best fight of the weekend. So that's interesting in its way. I guess I'm going to say Koreshkov is going to probably be able to work a sort of takedown heavy game against actually, what? Fuck it. Let's be interesting. I'm going to say Njokuani takes a bit of a jump up here. He's able to keep this standing and use his extreme reach to just kind of stick and move and outpoint Koreshkov. Just because why not? It'll be fun.
All right. Well, to make it interesting, and it would have just been making it boring for picking a sizable favorite. But since you're mixing up, I guess I can say picking the favorite here, picking against who you're going with is making it fun and interesting. I am going with Andrei Koreshkov, the former Bellator welterweight champ. I think a lot of what you said was I was going to say, and we'll probably repeat and leave out some. He's really strong for the division. He's great at controlling his opponents on the mat, and his striking is getting better. He tore up Benson Henderson for 5 rounds, of course. Granted, he had a huge size advantage, something he will not have. He'll have a size disadvantage against Chidi and Njokuani. So that makes it interesting. As you said, that's an interesting wrinkle in this fight, in this rather close fight. If Chidi can keep it on the feet, I think he outpoints Koreshkov. I think he hits a bit harder. Koreshkov has good volume, but he's still developing a little bit on the feet. But Chidi and Njokuani also has to defend the takedowns, and that's easier said than done. I don't think he'll be able to do so for the most part. The guy hasn't fought nearly the level of competition His best win, just looking at the record, I could be completely wrong about this, but the name that stood out as far as someone notable was Melvin Gillard, and that's not a good win in 2016 or 17. Koreshkov has fought the best of the best. Douglas Lima is right up there with the best, even in the UFC. Ben Askren, of course, is well over at 1 overseas. I like Koreshkov. I think he's able to take Chitty down. I think he does okay on the feet. I think Njokuani probably has the better moments, maybe the harder shots, but I think the difference on the mat is a lot bigger than the difference on the feet, and so I think Andrei Koreshkov does get it done over the course of 25 minutes. I don't see a finish happening. If we do, I think it's Njokuani by knockout, a bit of a flash knockout, come from upset. But I think if Koreshkov wins, which I do think will happen, it'll be a 25-minute, pretty clear decision. Could be a fun fight, could be a bit of a grind fest if Koreshkov does get him down and hold him down, but I think it'll be somewhat fun no matter where this fight takes place. That does it for Bellator 182. I know we didn't go over every single fight. I don't think there's really anything else to talk about. We've been going on for a little bit. So I guess we got to do what everybody's doing and give our final words on the super fight of the ages, the biggest fight we've ever seen, Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. Let's do this as quick as possible. You are picking Floyd Mayweather. I'm picking Floyd Mayweather because it's the rational pick.
Here are the words I will say on this. If you're watching this, I mean this from the very bottom of my heart. Do not buy this pay-per-view. If you have to, stream it. I don't care. I shouldn't be telling you to do something illegal.
You're a lawyer.
Yeah, I shouldn't be doing that. But do not give these men your money. Just don't. Like that's it. Like I don't. I've seen stuff on Twitter where somebody, I think Chad Dundas, maybe it was Ben Folks, retweeted some dude saying he's going to donate $100 to a local women's shelter so he could not feel bad about spending $100 to buy the pay-per-view. That doesn't, like, that's awesome. Do that. But instead of donating $100 to a women's shelter and buying the pay-per-view, just donate $200 to the women's shelter and don't buy the fucking pay-per-view. Like, you don't have to watch this. And it's hard to explain that to people because it feels like this is a cultural event and people don't want to miss out. You're not going to miss out. Like, you can just go on MMA Fighting or Bloody Elbow. The coverage will be there. You can read a play-by-play. One of us, somebody will be doing that, and you can see the results. Afterwards, follow Kaposa. He'll probably gift the fuck out of it. Like, you don't need to see this shit, and you don't need to give these men your money. I don't think Conor McGregor is a bad person. I do think he's a latent racist, but I don't think he's like a Klansman. I think he just exists in a world where he doesn't, is says casually racist things occasionally. And
how many Ks is Conor McGregor?
Conor McGregor is probably a 1K, maybe 1.5. He just says casual racist stuff. I grew up in the South. Like, he's just like every white dude in the South, essentially. They'll all say like some casually racist stuff, and they don't realize it, and they don't think black people should, not have the right to vote or whatever. But they grew up in a situation that's terrible and horrible, and they don't really understand it. And Conor, I think of Conor in the same way. I think occasionally he is intentionally race baiting, but mostly I think he just doesn't understand it. And so he's not a Klansman, he's not a racist, but racism isn't Klansman or nothing. Like, you're not either fucking Martin Luther King or a Klansman. Like, it's a spectrum, and he's there. He's in a relatively normal place for the day and age, which doesn't absolve him of saying racist shit or doubling down on the racist shit. Like, I don't think he's a bad person. I do think Floyd Mayweather is a bad human being, and you shouldn't give Floyd Mayweather a dime. If there was a way to just give Conor money, then okay, I'd be fine with it. Like, I wouldn't say don't buy it because of Conor. I'm not going to say don't buy Conor McGregor pay-per-views after this. I would like it for him to not say misogynist or racist things. That would be awesome. But, I don't think those aren't deal breakers for me. And maybe that speaks to me. Maybe that's not a good thing about myself. I do think that Floyd Mayweather shouldn't get a dime of your money. I haven't given Floyd Mayweather a dime of my money in years. I didn't buy Pacquiao Mayweather. I ended up watching it. I feel like I might end up getting forced into watching this because all of my friends are doing it, despite me having literally argued with them at loss of breath about why it's stupid. Don't do it. You don't have to give this man money. He doesn't need any more. He doesn't deserve your damn money. This is a farce. It's a waste of time. It determines nothing and stands for nothing and no one. The winner of this will not be the best boxer alive. They won't be the best fighter alive. They won't have proved that boxing is superior to MMA or vice versa. Nothing relevant is happening here. The money fight is a great explanation, like name for this, because that is what it is. Like if you think about money, money has no value. Money's intrinsic value is only the worth that we give it. $100 bill is a sheet of linen that is useless. Like if all banks. Oh yeah, well yeah, okay, sure. But like in America, I think it's linen or cotton or some shit. Like it's just that. And if the world went to shit, you having all the $100 bills in your pocket wouldn't mean anything. And that's what this fight means nothing but the fact that everybody has bought into the idea that it's meritorious and worthwhile. It's not. It's a farce. Conor's going to get his shit pushed in. And the thing that is my least favorite about this fight is I have to hope Floyd Mayweather wins. And I don't, because Floyd Mayweather is an unrepentant piece of shit. And I don't want him to ever have success in his life because fuck him. But if Conor somehow wins, it will validate all the stupidest fucking people in the world and in this space and everybody who has had a dumbass idea or comment about this fucking fight. MMA angles are dumb. Like, here it is. I'm going to boil this fight down to you in the simplest component parts. A guy who is incredibly skilled at boxing is fighting a guy who has never boxed in his life. That's it. The guy better at the thing they are doing is going to win because he is better at it and has been preparing for it his entire life. And this other dude is fucking not. And that's like, I don't understand why we're involved in this. I just don't get it. I don't see the appeal. It is so Conor can win. I don't want to say that it is impossible for him to win because any man can win a fight. I can go in there and theoretically land the best punch of my life and knock out Floyd Mayweather. But if Conor somehow does win, it is not proof that he is a better fighter, that MMA is, a better martial art, or that boxing is stale and whatever. It is just proof that he is the luckiest man that has ever walked on the face of the earth. And that's it. And it's going to validate I don't want to say bad things about certain people because people I respect some of these guys. And so I don't want to attack them personally. Robin Black has had the dumbest fucking takes on this in the world. Like, they're right up there with fucking Brendan Schaub. And it is mind-boggling to me that they're giving credence, that the idea that, oh, well, boxing is stale and whatever. No, here's the thing. Boxing isn't a stale sport. It is a stale sport in the fact that it is limited to hand combat, or as some genius on Twitter put it earlier, fist striking. Like, you can only strike with these. So yes, the new things that MMA introduced to boxing were not punches. They are knees and elbows and kicks. They are takedowns and grappling and submissions. Conor can't bring something Floyd hasn't seen because boxing isn't. Robin Black spent hours talking about how dogmatic boxing is, and it's just stuck in these traditions, and so it's not willing to advance. And that's true if you're talking about an actual self-defense method. Like, if you are a jackass going into a street fight and being like, boxing is that's gonna be this thing, yeah, okay, Conor's gonna beat the fuck out of you. He's just gonna take you down and tap you. But if you're talking about actually hand-to-hand, like actual boxing, it's not dogmatic, it's proper. This is so stupid to me, and I can't understand why some people don't get it. I can't determine if they're just shilling to do it or if they're this obtuse. Like, you realize that millions upon millions of dollars are being made in boxing. nobody, like these poor kids from the projects or the Philippines or wherever aren't going into a boxing gym and not adapting or not doing something, not using MMA angles or a savate stance because like, oh, this is dogmatic and this isn't how you do it in boxing. They're not doing it because it's not fucking proper and it doesn't work. If that was a better way to box, these people would be doing it because then they would make millions of fucking dollars by doing this new thing. Like, it's so fucking stupid. Conor's just gonna get obliterated, and that's good and proper, but it's a waste of our time. Don't spend your money on it. Don't waste your Saturday evening. Literally anything else you did on a Saturday evening, barring an actual crime, would be a better use of your time. Floyd Mayweather, I originally thought he was going to TKO Conor. I think if Floyd wanted to, he knocks out Conor inside of 8 rounds. I sort of have the feeling that he is just going to coast and just kind of carry Conor along with him and to give him that rub, and that's going to be it. And we'll all be the worse for it. I hate everything about this. I cannot wait for Sunday, and even then we'll still have to talk about it, but maybe we can start moving on to things that are better and more worthwhile.
Stefan Struve and Alexander Volkov.
Yeah, fuck, God damn it.
My theory as to why, I mean, no matter what you do, whether you covered your ears for the past 3 months, during every press conference, during every conference call, during every sort of media or Mayweather-McGregor thing that happened ever since it was official, I feel like if you did not cover it at all, you didn't write a single post on it, you did not tweet about it, you did not watch it, you ignored it. And I know that's not really a plausible thing for you because you kind of had to write about it. But if you avoided it as much as I did, I think you would still hate it, but not as much.
I don't think so. I couldn't. There are very few things in this sport directly involved in an actual competitive thing that I could hate more than this. Like, I don't. It has all of the trappings of things that I dislike. It has a shitty person involved in it. It has not a wonderful human being involved in it either on the other end. But Conor's fine. Like, I'm not making a moral judgment on Conor. Like, Conor seems like a nice enough guy for the most part. He has a flaw. People are flawed. I have tons of fucking flaws. But it has an actual shitty person that's going to make an unbelievable amount of money, and he's going to make a bunch of money in a con job. That's it. Like, that's why I hate this fight so much, because this is a con job on the American public and the global public writ large. People are going to shell out $100. A lot of them are going to do it because they want to be part of the spectacle, which is really fucking stupid, but whatever. Some of them are going to do it because enough actual boxing people or connected people who get to be put on TV, even though they're dumb as shit like Brendan Schaub, are saying Conor has a chance, and they're going to pay $100 to see if it happens, because that would be a cultural moment. But he doesn't have a chance. This is a con job that we are all complicit in because we have all given it credence and covered it, and it's so we are part and parcel to a con job to give a serial domestic abuser hundreds of millions of dollars. And it bothers me on a deeply moral and personal level. And it bothers me just on a fucking intellectual level that that people are out there thinking that this isn't the stupidest thing that's ever happened.
And not just fans, people we respect, top journalists, media guys, video people, whatever.
They're just thinking this isn't the stupidest, least competitive thing that ever happened. Like, I thought we were all in on it. I thought everyone knew, like, yeah, of course Floyd wants this fight. He'll make a ton of money and fight the easiest fight of his career. And then somehow there's become a narrative of people like, well, Conor's so much bigger. Floyd fought Canelo Alvarez, who is equal bigger than Conor McGregor right now. Well, Conor's a big hitter. Conor's not that big a hitter. That's a lie.
It's because Mayweather Promotions and the UFC together has actually done an okay job at promoting this. The whole idea of promoting this fight is not that Mayweather and McGregor are fighting on August 26th. By the pay-per-view, be there. It is Conor McGregor has a chance. We are going to put it in your brains. We're going to... What they did was brainwash millions of people over the course of 3 months.
Yeah, it's a big fucking con job. It's a big fucking con job to give at like literally the best people involved in this are not like wonderful people. Like Conor McGregor seems to be a nice guy, but like
Dana White.
he's not a fucking saint. He's not Mother Teresa or whatever. Like, and the other people making money on this, Leonard Ellaby, Dana White, Floyd Mayweather, they can all go fuck themselves. Like, this is such a fucking. It's so fucking bad, dude. It's so fucking bad. And I know that this is combat sports and everybody's mostly shitty in this space. But fuck off.
I know
that other stuff matters. At least, and I know it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but at least there's sporting merit to it. At least it's determining who's the best fighter in the world or the best boxer in the world or a guy with more skill. It's not a fucking race to the bottom that's driven on a car fueled by cash. Like, fuck this.
I hope, and I know people have already suggested this, so what I'm about to say isn't maybe original, but I hope Conor McGregor knocks Floyd Mayweather out with a head kick.
No, because then he just looks like a fucking asshole.
Cool. Like, cool. That's better than Mayweather 12-round decision.
No, it's not. Then it's because then we have to hear, and then it's the only talking point. I want whatever will make this go away the fucking fastest. That's what I want. Like, I want this to not be a thing because it shouldn't be a thing in our lexicon, in our world. We shouldn't have to deal with this because it's fucking stupid. It is fucking stupid, and that's it. It's pure and simple. This is a con job to give a shitbag a lot of money, and it's dumb. And if he somehow does it, good for Conor. He will control the world. And that's awesome for him. He will deserve it because he's, he put himself in this position. But it will also, give credence to idiotic takes. John Kavanaugh, who's a dumbass, will suddenly be, vilified. Like, you're not vilified. What's the fucking word I'm looking? Vindicated for his decision to not bring in a boxing coach because – and I'm paraphrasing here, but this is a legitimate thing that John Kavanaugh actually fucking said. We're not going to hire a real high-level boxing coach because all of those coaches, like Freddie Roach or whatever, they've all coached fighters who have faced Floyd and lost. So what are we going to learn from them? Which is the dumbest fucking thing that maybe has been uttered in this sport's fucking history. If you listen to that. If you heard what Kavanaugh said and think, yeah, that guy's a thinker, go walk into traffic because you're a fucking moron. Like, Conor McGregor has the means to bring in anyone he could, and he didn't because, why would I want to learn boxing from Freddie Roach? He didn't beat Mayweather. You're a fucking moron. Like, and I don't want the idiots to be vindicated. I would rather give a lot of money to a shitty fucking human being and have him get his 50-0 record and all that bullshit than to have all the stupidest human beings in the fucking world feel like they're right. Because fuck that. I'm dealing with that too much these days in general and in the American political spectrum to have to deal with it in the sporting world.
Okay, so I'm not going to say anything else other than I agree with pretty much all of you, with everything you said, other than the fact that I'm not as pissed off. I mean, I don't like the fight, but I'm not like, as mad as you. But yes, definitely not, stupid fight. Nothing, there's nothing really on the line other than a ton of money and some money belt that they just brought up today, apparently. Mayweather 12-round decision. I don't think it'll be that fun. I think it'll be as expected, what we expect, pretty clear fight. He'll coast. I think McGregor maybe does okay early. I will say McGregor will win 2 rounds and Floyd will win 10, and that's how I see it playing out. And I know you are also going Mayweather by decision. So with that, let's end this off on this brilliant high note. We are episode 79 of Before the Battle is in the books. Thank you, Jed, for coming on as you always do. Wesley Riddle will most likely be back for the tallest fight of the year, Stefan Struve and Alexander Volkov next week in Rotterdam, of course. That is it. Thank you guys for watching. Jed, remind everybody where they can find you on social media, where they can find your writing, your podcast, if that's still a thing, And anything else you got to plug?
You can find me on social media. Just hit me on Twitter, JEDKMESHEW. Everything links to there. I write for MMA Fighting every single day, and I have an actual piece on Mayweather-McGregor that I'm really excited about. I have no idea who's going to publish it yet. MMA Fighting is not going to do it because it's not really of tone and tenor with what we do there. This is a more I know I just spent like a half hour just railing on this. It's not that. That's the piece is not me doing that. I really like this piece, and I don't know who's gonna. I'm shopping it to a couple of places right now. We'll see who posts it, but it should come out on Friday, hopefully, to be right before the fight. But yeah,
MMA Junior has it covered if you can't find anybody.
Probably not, but shit, maybe. We'll see.
Podcast, is that still a thing?
Nah, not for the moment. It might come back at some point, but too busy at the moment in time for me or TNG. I mean, it's really on me. I've just got too much other shit going on in my life to be able to consistently produce and edit a podcast. So we're on an indefinite hiatus. We might come back. But at the moment we are
GSP. All right.
Yeah, maybe we'll come back for 17.
For what?
217? That's the Madison Square,
MSG,
right?
Yeah. All right. My laptop, it's not plugged in and it's 6%, so let's do this quick. You can find me on the Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA. You can find my writing over at bloodyelbow.com. You can find my other podcast I hosted with Andrew Lawrence each and every week, although more often than not, it's with Jed Meshew. And past couple weeks, well, last week I hosted it with Wes Riddle, and this week we hosted it with Victor Rodriguez of Bloody Elbow. So that was dropped today, episode 125 of The Circus. We have one guest. He is AJ McKee. We spent a bit of time talking about him on this show as well. So go check it out. Victor and I talk about a little bit of Maymac, mostly about JDS and, of course, John Jones. And again, very, very briefly on Bellator. Not too much because I knew we would be breaking it down.
Oh no, did Nicholas's computer die? He might have died. Well, if he died, ladies and gentlemen, that might mean the stream has died. And if so, I'm sorry for you. I'm going to assume, since he has yet to come back, that his computer actually did just go kaputski on him. I do not have the ability to functionally end this stream, so I'm just going to end up signing off, and you can stare at, for me at least, it's a pic of Nick mid-sentence. If it's for you, if this is even still recording, who knows? But thank you so much for all your time. Check out the MMA Circus. Follow Nick on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Follow Wes Riddle on Twitter. All that MMA. He should be back with us next week. Thank you very much, guys. Love you.